Coach Raye, man, you look good. Wow.
Thank you.
So what do you remember about being a pioneer back in the 60s at the quarterback position?
I remember the start. And I got my start in Fayetteville at E. Smith High School in a segregated situation where education was the paramount in our existence, and playing quarterback for E. Smith was the pinnacle of success. And at that time, I didn't know anything about pioneering. I was just playing for the love of the game and an opportunity to get an education.
Not just playing, but excelling. Not many of us in here can even claim one national championship, let alone two, which you won at Michigan State. Tell us about that time playing college, competing at that level.
Well, I was fortunate enough, because of my high school career, to receive a football scholarship to Michigan State University, which was kind of a double-edged sword, because I played a position that wasn't totally acceptable and was against the norm. I was a quarterback. And I was recruited to Michigan State, and I arrived there, and we had a coach, Duffy Daugherty, that was a visionary and had great courage, recruited a lot of black athletes out of the South, and I was amongst that group. And we had an environment there that was conducive to success, a culture that accepted players of color, and it was a situation where we bonded, we had good players, and we won a lot of games.
Back then, there was an AP winner and then a different organization winner, right? So there was a lot of controversy always over the decades until we had the college football playoff system the way we have it now, so we do have a declared winner. Tell us about the 10-10 tie game. You remember that game in 1966 against Notre Dame?
Yeah.
What happened?
A few times. If I told my son if I had a nickel for everybody that I ran into that saw that game, I'd be a real wealthy man. What came about, what transpired was the previous year we went undefeated and won the national championship and went to the Rose Bowl in 1965. And at that time in intercollegiate athletics in the Big Ten, they had a no-repeat rule. So you couldn't go 2 years in a row. So if you won it the second time, the second place team got to go and you went home. We had an exclusive pact with the Pac-8 and the Big Ten that they could only play in that game. And leading up to that season, my first start in '66 was against North Carolina State. And Earl Edwards was the coach at North Carolina State that had been an assistant under Duffy Daugherty at Michigan State and had recommended me to Duffy during the recruiting process. And as it turns out, it came full circle, and I opened the game against them, and I met one of the players that I competed against at NC State tonight, and we beat them 28-10, and I still have the game ball from that game. But leading into that year, the UPI and the AP were the two separate polls that ranked college football teams. And we started off number one in the UPI, and Notre Dame started off as number one in the AP. And we battled through the season, And the turning point of the season came in Columbus, Ohio, against the Ohio State Buckeyes. We were playing in mid to late October. We won the game in a monsoon, 11-8, and vice versa. Notre Dame beat their opponent, I think it was Duke, 50-6. So it flip-flopped. So we were 1 in one poll, they were 2. We were 1 in they were 1 in the other poll, and we were 2. And it set up what became the game of the century, the national championship game. And in that game, we had on the field the first 6 players drafted in the National Football League draft played for Michigan State. 6 of the first 10. Bubba Smith, George Webster, Clinton Jones, Gene Washington, Charlie Thornhill, Harold Lucas. And the Notre Dame Fighting Irish had Terry Hanratty, Jim Seymour, Alan Page, Pete Duranko, Jim Harder. They were vulnerable as well. So we led with the week leading up to the game. There was a lot of talk about who's the best, is it Michigan State or is it Notre Dame? There was a lot of social implications at that time too, because Michigan State was the first fully integrated team in intercollegiate athletics at that time, with 2 black co-captains and a black quarterback. And Notre Dame only had 1 black player, and that was Alan Page, who was a great player in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and went on to become a Superior Court judge in Minnesota. And the build-up to the game was, the hoopla, or build-up to the game was Jim Seymour, Terry Hanratty, the quarterback for Notre Dame, and Jim Seymour, the star wide receiver. And so they kind of downplayed me and Gene Washington's. So they put them on the cover of Time magazine, Seymour and Hanratty. So the State News and the Lansing State Journal duplicated the picture on the cover of Time magazine with me and Gene. They didn't get the national press that they got, but that was the impetus to start it. And as the week unfolded, all of the credentials for media requests was the largest that had ever happened in the history of college football. And we played the game in East Lansing. It was very cold, is what I remember. And we played the game, and about 2 minutes left in the game, I was talking to Duffy, who was my head coach, and we were going over the last 8 plays of the game when we got the ball back. And then I kept looking at the clock. As he's talking to me, I'm looking up at the clock, and it's ticking down. And it's dawned on me that they weren't trying to score. They were trying to run the clock out. They weren't trying to score. They weren't going to give us a chance to get the ball back. And that's where the controversy started. And we never got the ball back. And the game ended in a tie. And it has lived on because, as I said earlier today, that I've been approached and given more credit for a game I didn't win than all of the games that I won. And the reason I think it's lived for so long is because of the social implications of the game, the competitive environment that it was in, and the fact that there won't be any more tie games, because now in collegiate athletics, the games play to overtime till somebody wins the game.
37 years in the NFL coaching.
Crazy, huh?
That's a long time to coach.
Yeah.
Must have been fun.
It was. It was a passion of mine. I loved teaching and coaching, and I was good at it.
That's why you're here.
Yeah. Coached a lot of great football players, Hall of Famers. Coached for a lot of teams. Coached for 10 different teams in the NFL, some twice. And rose to the rank of offensive coordinator in the National Football League on a number of different occasions. So it was a very rewarding experience.
Do you look back now and realize some of the barriers that you crossed in your pioneering career and what it means to you, and what do you share off those experiences with others?
Well, when I look back, the biggest motivation and the impetus for me was Sandy Stevens. I was a junior in high school, or maybe a sophomore in high school, and Sandy Stevens was playing for the University of Minnesota. And back in that time, the way they introduced the team on the field, the guy would run up to the camera and announce his name and his hometown, and then disappear. And so I'm watching the game, this Rose Bowl game in '62, and this black guy runs up to the camera and he says, "Sandy Stevens, Uniontown, Pennsylvania," and he went off. And I thought, wow, there's a black quarterback playing major college football. So that was my motivation that put into my mind that, well, there's an opportunity for you to go farther if you have the ability and the desire. There's a chance for you that you could also end up in that position. And I look back on it now. When I played major college football at Michigan State, I was the only black quarterback starting in the Division I football. And it gives me great pleasure now to see that it's unusual to see a team that doesn't have a black quarterback, even in the Southeastern Conference, the Southwest, the West, all over the country. And hopefully something that I did as an athlete, as a player, as a quarterback, has something to do with changing the landscape and helping the game, grow the game, and become a better game.
Well, you've definitely done a lot of that. Who would you like to thank tonight?
A number of people. First of all, my mom and dad. My dad for giving me a backyard of Seabrook Park where I could play ball all day long. And my mother, who encouraged me to be the best that I could be. And she used to always tell me, no one has cornered the market on desire. You can have as much desire as you want to and passion to be the best that you can be. My wife for 55 years, Edwina, that encouraged me and had the steadfast courage to stay with me through all of the moves and the changes in coaching as the coach goes through. My siblings, Donald and Pamela, Pat, and Craig. My kids are here, Robin, Michelle, and Jimmy III. I'd like to thank them for the sacrifices that they've made during this arduous journey. And most of all, Duffer Doherty, who had the courage to let me play, or give me the opportunity to play at Michigan State and change my life. I'll be forever indebted to that opportunity and what it provided for me.
The Hall welcomes you back home, Jimmy Raye. Congratulations.
Thank you.